In the busy city of Abuja, where tall buildings touched the sky and the streets were always full of people, there lived a kind-hearted girl named Chika. Chika was known by everyone in the neighborhood for her good behavior and gentle nature. She was the type of girl who always smiled and greeted everyone politely. Her friends at school liked her, and even the parents in the area often used Chika as an example for their own children, saying, "Why can't you be more like Chika? She's such a good girl." But life hadn't always been easy for Chika. When she was just 2 years old, her mother, whom she loved very much, passed away. Chika was too young to understand what had happened, but she knew her mother wasn't coming back. Her father was a kind man who loved Chika. He did everything he could to make sure Chika was happy, but he knew that she needed a mother's care too. He often saw how lonely Chika looked without a mother by her side. So, after a while, Mr. John decided to remarry, hoping that a new wife would help take care of Chika and bring happiness back into their home. One day, Mr. John introduced Chika to a woman named Doris. Doris was a tall, beautiful woman with long hair and a charming smile. When Chika first met Doris, she felt a bit shy, but Doris seemed nice enough. She smiled at Chika and said, "Hello Chika, I have heard so much about you. You are such a sweet girl." Chika smiled back, feeling a little relieved. She hoped that Doris would be kind and loving, just like her own mother had been. Soon after, Doris moved in with Chika and her father, and they started living together as a family. At first, everything seemed fine. Doris would cook meals for the family, help Chika with her homework, and even tell her bedtime stories. But then, things began to change. A few years after Doris moved in, she gave birth to a baby girl named Ella. Chika was excited to have a little sister. She loved babies, and she couldn't wait to play with Ella and teach her all the things she knew. However, as time went on, Doris's attitude towards Chika started to change. It was slow at first, like a dark cloud creeping across a bright sky. Doris, who once seemed so caring and kind, began to act differently, especially after Ella was born. One evening, as the sun was setting and the sky turned orange, Chika sat in the living room, playing with her doll. Doris came into the room, holding baby Ella in her arms. She looked at Chika with a frown. "Chika, why are you just sitting there? Can't you see that Ella needs her bottle?" Doris said in a sharp tone. Chika quickly jumped up, surprised by Doris's sudden harshness. "I'm sorry, Mommy," she said, hurrying to get the bottle for Ella. As Chika handed the bottle to Doris, she noticed that Doris didn't smile at her the way she used to. Instead, Doris took the bottle without even saying thank you. Chika felt a little sad, but didn't say anything. She thought maybe Doris was just tired from taking care of the baby. But as the days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, Doris's behavior only got worse. She would scold Chika for the smallest things, like if Chika didn't clean her room perfectly, or if she was a little late coming home from school. Doris even started to make Chika do all the house chores while she relaxed and take care of Ella. One afternoon, as Chika was sweeping the floor, she heard Doris talking to a neighbor outside. "Oh, Chika, she's just a lazy girl. I have to make her do everything around the house, or she would just sit around doing nothing," Doris said loudly enough for Chika to hear. Chika felt tears well up in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. She didn't want Doris to see her crying. She didn't understand why Doris was being so mean to her. What had she done wrong? Chika missed her mother more than ever and wished her father was around more to see what was happening. But Mr. John was always busy with work, trying to provide for the family. One evening, after finishing all her chores, Chika sat down with her father in the living room. She wanted to tell him how she was feeling, but she didn't know how to start. "Papa," Chika said softly, looking at the floor. "Yes, my dear," Mr. John replied, looking at Chika with concern. He could tell something was bothering her. Chika hesitated for a moment, then said, "Papa, do you think I'm a lazy girl?" Mr. John looked surprised. "Why would you ask that, Chika? You are not lazy at all. You are a very hardworking and good girl." Chika felt a little better hearing her father's words, but she still felt a knot in her stomach. "It's just that Mommy says I'm lazy and that I don't do anything right." "I'm sure she doesn't mean it, Chika. Doris has a lot on her plate with the new baby. Don't worry, everything will be fine." Chika nodded, but deep down, she wasn't so sure. She wanted to believe her father, but the way Doris looked at her now, as if she was a burden, made Chika feel like things were far from fine. As time went on, Doris's behavior only got worse. She began to favor Ella more openly, giving her the best food and clothes, while Chika was left with whatever was left over. If Chika ever made a mistake, like spilling water or breaking a plate, Doris would scream at her, saying things like, "Why are you so clumsy? Can't you do anything right?" Chika would apologize over and over, but Doris never seemed satisfied. One cold morning, as Chika was getting ready for school, she noticed that her school uniform was missing. She searched everywhere but couldn't find it. Panicking, she ran to Doris. "Mommy, I can't find my school uniform. Did you see it?" Chika asked nervously. Doris didn't even look up from feeding Ella. "Why are you asking me? You are responsible for your things. If you have lost it, that's your problem." Chika's heart sank. She couldn't go to school without her uniform. What would she do? Just then, Doris got up. Chika noticed something on the chair where Doris had been sitting. It was her school uniform, crumbled up and dirty. "Mommy, my uniform is here, but it's dirty," Chika said, her voice shaking. Doris turned to Chika with an annoyed expression. "Well, you should have been more careful with your things. Now, you have to go to school like that." Chika knew she couldn't go to school in a dirty uniform, but she also knew that arguing with Doris would only make things worse. So with a heavy heart, she picked up the uniform, smoothed it out as best as she could, and put it on. As she walked to school, she felt embarrassed, knowing that her classmates would see her in a dirty uniform, but there was nothing she could do. At school, Chika's teacher noticed her dirty uniform and asked, "Chika, what happened? Why is your uniform so dirty?" Chika looked down at her feet, not knowing what to say. She didn't want to get Doris in trouble, so she just mumbled, "I'm sorry, ma. It was an accident." The teacher sighed. "Be more careful next time, okay?" Chika nodded, but inside, she felt a deep sadness. She wished her mother were still alive. She was sure that if her mother were here, things would be different. But Chika also knew that no matter how bad things got, she had to be strong. She had to keep going, even if Doris didn't treat her kindly. As the days went by, Chika tried her best to stay out of Doris's way. She did all her chores quickly and quietly, hoping that if she didn't make any mistakes, Doris would leave her alone. But Doris always found something to complain about. One day, as Chika was cleaning the living room, she overheard Doris talking on the phone. Yes, I'm doing well. Little Ella is growing up so fast, Doris said in a sweet voice. But then her tone changed, becoming cold and harsh. Chika, oh, that girl is nothing but trouble. I don't know why her father dotes on her so much. She's just a nuisance. Chika's heart ached hearing those words. She couldn't understand why Doris hated her so much. All she ever wanted was to be loved and to make her father proud. But it seemed that no matter what she did, it was never enough for Doris. Despite everything that Chika went through at home, she always wore a bright smile on her face. No matter how hard her stepmother Doris tried to bring her down, Chika never let it show. She knew that if she let Doris see her sad or upset, it would only make things worse. So, Chika kept smiling and kept working hard. At school, Chika was not just an ordinary student. She was the smartest in her class. She always topped the class by far, making her teachers proud and her classmates eager to be her friend. Whenever the teacher asked a question, Chika's hand was the first to shoot up. She answered every question correctly, and her classmates would often ask her for help with their homework. Even though Chika was going through so much at home, she never let it affect her studies. She loved learning and always did her best. Chika, feeling a warm glow inside, she dreamed of becoming a doctor one day, someone who could help people and make a difference in the world. But deep down, she was also worried. She knew that her stepmother didn't care about her dreams. Doris was only focused on her own daughter Ella and making Chika's life difficult. At home, things continued to get worse. Doris's jealousy grew stronger every time she heard about Chika's success at school. She couldn't stand that everyone loved Chika and that her daughter Ella was always in Chika's shadow. Ella was a good student too, but she could never match Chika's brilliance. This made Doris very angry. One evening, as Chika was doing her homework in the living room, Doris came in with a frown on her face. Chika, why are you always studying? Don't you have other things to do in this house? Doris snapped. Chika looked up from her books, trying to stay calm. I have finished all my chores, ma. I'm just finishing my homework. Doris narrowed her eyes. Don't you think you are too proud of yourself? Just because you are smart doesn't mean you can do whatever you want in this house. Chika swallowed hard, feeling the sting of Doris's words. I'm not trying to be proud, ma. I just want to do well in school. Well, you need to stop thinking you are better than everyone else, Doris said sharply. Now, go and wash the dishes. Chika nodded and quietly put her books away. She knew better than to argue with Doris. As she washed the dishes, she thought about how unfair life was. No matter how hard she tried to make Doris happy, it was never enough. But even as she scrubbed the plate, Chika didn't let her sadness show. She kept her smile, knowing that one day, things would get better. Time passed, and Chika continued to excel in school. She graduated from secondary school as the top student, and everyone in the neighborhood praised her for her hard work. But just as she was preparing to enter the university, something terrible happened that shook her world. One rainy evening, Chika was sitting at home reading a book when she heard a loud knock on the door. She hurried to open it and found a neighbor standing there with a worried look on his face. Chika, something has happened to your father, the neighbor said in a shaky voice. Chika felt her heart skip a beat. What do you mean? What happened? Your father, he suddenly collapsed at work. They have taken him to the hospital. Without wasting a second, Chika grabbed her shoes and ran out into the rain. She didn't care about getting wet. She just wanted to be with her father. When she arrived at the hospital, she found Doris already there, crying loudly. The doctors were talking in hushed tones, but Chika could barely hear them over the sound of her own heartbeat. "Please, where is my father?" Chika asked, her voice trembling. One of the doctors stepped forward and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Chika. Your father passed away. There was nothing we could do." Chika felt the world crumble around her. Her legs felt weak, and she almost fell to the ground. How could this happen? Her father was strong and healthy. How could he be gone so suddenly? Tears streamed down her face as she realized that the one person who had always been there for her, who had protected her, was now gone. The days that followed were a blur for Chika. The house was filled with people coming to mourn and pay their respects. But all Chika could feel was a deep, aching sadness. The funeral was held a few days later, and as Chika stood by her father's grave, she felt more alone than ever. She knew that with her father gone, her life would become even harder. Doris didn't love her, and now there was no one to protect her from her stepmother's cruelty. After the burial ceremony, the house felt emptier than ever. The visitors left, and it was now just Chika, Doris, and Ella. Chika was grateful that the house belonged to her father, so they didn't have to move out. But living there without her father was a constant reminder of her loss. One evening, after everyone had left, Doris called Chika into the living room. "Chika, come here," she said in a voice that made Chika's stomach twist with worry. Chika walked into the living room, her heart pounding. Doris was sitting on the sofa, with Ella playing beside her. Doris looked at Chika with cold eyes. "Now that your father is gone," Doris began, "things are going to change around here." Chika felt a lump in her throat but stayed silent. "You think you are smart, don't you? Top of your class, everyone's favorite girl." Doris sneered. "Well, let me tell you something, Chika. None of that matters anymore. Your father is gone, and you are all alone now. I'm in charge, and you will do exactly as I say." Chika bit her lip, trying to hold back her tears. She knew that Doris was right. Without her father, she had no one to stand up for her. "From now on," Doris continued, "you will be doing all the chores in this house. You will cook, you will clean, you will wash, and you will take care of Ella. And don't even think about going to the university. You will stay here and do your duty as a good daughter." Chika felt a wave of despair wash over her. She had worked so hard in school, and now all her dreams were being crushed right before her eyes. She wanted to cry, to shout, to tell Doris how unfair she was being, but she knew it wouldn't make a difference. Doris had made up her mind, and there was nothing Chika could do to change it. "Yes, ma," Chika whispered, her voice barely audible. Doris smiled, satisfied with Chika's response. "Good. Now go to bed. You have a lot of work to do tomorrow." Chika turned and walked slowly to her room. As soon as she closed the door, she let the tears fall. She cried quietly into her pillow, not wanting Doris to hear her. She cried for her father, for her lost dreams, and for the harsh life that lay ahead. But even as she cried, a small part of her refused to give up hope. She knew that somehow Some way, she had to find a way to survive. She had to be strong, just like her father had always told her to be. The days that followed were filled with endless pains and harsh words from Doris. Chika woke up early every morning to cook breakfast, clean the house. She barely had time to rest. And whenever she made even the smallest mistake, Doris would scold her harshly. Years went by, and Chika grew into a young woman. She was now a full-grown adult, but her life had changed very little since her father had passed away. Her dreams of going to the university were long forgotten, replaced by endless days of work and chores. Chika had accepted her fate, knowing that there was no way out of her life of servitude. Ella, on the other hand, had grown into a young woman as well. She had graduated from university and was working in a good job. She and her mother Doris had become even more unkind and unfair towards Chika. They treated her as if she was invisible, only calling on her when they needed something done. Chika was always busy, cleaning, cooking, and taking care of the house, while Ella enjoyed her time at work and her social life. One day, Doris came home with a big smile on her face. She was holding a stack of papers and looked very excited. Ella, who was sitting in the living room, glanced up at her mother with curiosity. "Mom, what's going on?" Ella asked, setting her bag down on the sofa. Doris sat down beside her daughter, still grinning. "Ella, I have some wonderful news for you." Ella raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Doris placed the papers on the table and looked at her daughter with a twinkle in her eye. "I have arranged a marriage for you." Ella's eyes widened. "A marriage? But Mom, I'm not even seeing anyone seriously right now. Why would you do this?" Doris took Ella's hand in hers and said, "I know you are not seeing anyone, but this is a great opportunity. The family I have chosen for you is very wealthy and has a high status. They are exactly the kind of people you need to secure your future." Ella looked at her mother in surprise. "Who are they?" Doris's smile grew wider. "The family's name is the Okechukwus. They are very rich and their son Kenny is highly respected in the community. I have made sure that this match will benefit you greatly." Ella leaned back on the sofa, thinking about what her mother had said. She had always been used to getting what she wanted, and the idea of marrying into a wealthy family sounded appealing. Still, she felt a pang of uncertainty. "But Mom, I have never met Kenny. What if I don't like him?" Doris shook her head. "It doesn't matter if you like him or not. What matters is that he comes from a wealthy family. You can learn to like him after you are married. And besides, you'll be living a very comfortable life." Ella sighed, knowing that arguing with her mother was pointless. Doris always got her way, and Ella had learned to accept it. "All right, Mom, if you think this is best, then I will go along with it." Doris beamed with pleasure. "That's my girl. We have a lot to prepare for the wedding, so let's get started." Meanwhile, Chika was in the kitchen, quietly working on dinner. She had overheard the conversation between Doris and Ella, but didn't think much of it. Her life had become so predictable that she hardly noticed the things happening around her. She was used to Doris and Ella making decisions about their lives without considering her at all. That evening, Doris called Chika into the living room. Chika wiped her hands on a towel and walked in, expecting to hear another order. "Chika," Doris began, "we are having very important guests tomorrow. Make sure the house is spotless and prepare a nice meal for them." Chika looked at Doris in confusion. "Who are the guests, ma?" Doris waved her hand dismissively. "They are Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwu. They are coming to discuss the marriage arrangement for Ella, so make sure everything is perfect. Chika nodded and hurried back to the kitchen. She had no idea who the guests were, but she knew better than to question Doris. She spent the rest of the evening cleaning the house and preparing a delicious meal. The next day, Chika worked hard to make sure everything was in order. She cleaned every corner of the house, polished the furniture, and set the dining table with the finest dishes. When the time came for the guests to arrive, Chika was ready. As she was finishing up in the kitchen, she heard the sound of a car pulling up outside. She peeked through the window and saw a luxurious car parked in the driveway. A man and a woman in elegant outfits stepped out of the car. Chika's heart skipped a beat. She had never seen anyone so refined and important before. The couple walked up to the door, and Doris opened it with a wide smile. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwu. We are so glad you could come." Mr. Okechukwu nodded and smiled. "Thank you, Mrs. Doris. It's a pleasure to be here." Mrs. Okechukwu smiled warmly. "Yes, it's lovely to meet you." Doris ushered the Okechukwus into the living room where Ella was waiting. "Ella, this is Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwu. They have come to discuss the details of your marriage to their son, Kenny." Ella stood up and greeted them with a polite smile. "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwu. It's nice to meet you." Mr. Okechukwu shook Ella's hand. "Nice to meet you too, Ella." As Chika watched from the kitchen, she took a deep breath and tried to calm her nerves. She was nervous about serving dinner to such important guests. She wanted everything to be perfect. After a while, Chika brought the meal to the dining table. The aroma of the food filled the room, and everyone took their seats. As Chika served the dishes, she tried to stay out of the way but couldn't help overhearing snippets of conversation. "So, Mr. Okechukwu," Doris said with a smile, "tell us more about your family. I know you come from a very successful background." Mr. Okechukwu nodded. "Yes, our family has been in business for many years. We have several successful companies and are well known in the community." Ella listened with interest. She was impressed by the Okechukwu family's success and could see the benefits of marrying their son. Even though she had never met Kenny, the idea of marrying into such a wealthy family sounded appealing. As the evening went on, Chika continued to serve the meal and clean up. She overheard Doris and the Okechukwus discussing wedding arrangements and the future they were planning for Ella. Doris was very excited about the marriage and talked about all the luxurious things Ella would enjoy once she was married. Chika felt a pang of sadness as she listened. She had never been a part of the important conversations in the house. Her life had been reduced to serving others and taking care of the house while Doris and Ella enjoyed their lives. When dinner was over, Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwu thanked Doris for the lovely meal and said their goodbyes. Doris was thrilled with how the evening had gone and couldn't wait for the wedding. After the Okechukwus left, Doris turned to Ella with a satisfied look. "Everything went perfectly. I'm sure Mr. Kenny will be very pleased with you." Ella smiled. "Yes, Mom, it went well. I hope everything turns out just as you planned." Doris patted Ella's hand. "Don't worry. Everything will be perfect. And after you are married, you will have everything you have ever wanted." As the house quieted down, Chika went back to her room, feeling a heavy heart. She had seen how Doris was so focused on securing a wealthy future for Ella, but no one ever considered her feelings or her future. Chika knew she was stuck in her role, but she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of longing for a different life. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered what her life would have been like if things had been different. Would she have gone to university? Would she have had the chance to live her dreams? The questions raced through her mind as she drifted off to sleep. her thoughts filled with hope for a brighter future, even if she couldn't see how it would come to be. As the days went by, Doris busily prepared for Ella's upcoming marriage. The house was filled with wedding plans, dresses, and decorations. Doris was determined to make the wedding a grand affair. However, behind the scenes, she was deeply worried. She wanted to ensure that everything was perfect for Ella's future, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. To ease her concerns, Doris secretly hired a private investigator named Mr. Adams. She wanted to make sure that the Okechukwu family was as wealthy and respectable as they appeared. Mr. Adams was a professional with a reputation for finding the truth, no matter how hidden it was. A few days later, Mr. Adams returned with his report. Doris was anxious as she opened the document and began to read. Her eyes widened in shock as she read the findings. Mr. Adams sat across from her, his face serious. "Mrs. Doris, I have some important information about the Okechukwu family. They are not as wealthy as they claim to be. In fact, their financial situation is much worse than it seems." Doris's heart raced. "What do you mean? I thought they were very rich." Mr. Adams nodded. "They appear to have been wealthy at one time, but their businesses have struggled, and they are now facing serious financial problems. Additionally, there are some troubling aspects to their past that could affect your daughter's future." Doris's mind raced. She had planned for Ella to have a luxurious life, but now it seemed that her dreams were in jeopardy. The thought of Ella being tied to a struggling family filled her with fear. She needed a way to protect her daughter and ensure that her plans didn't fall apart. After a long night of worrying and planning, Doris made a heartless decision. She decided to switch the brides. Instead of Ella marrying Kenny, Doris would force Chika to marry him. Chika was the only one who was available to take Ella's place, and Doris thought it would be the best solution to protect Ella's future. The next morning, Doris called Chika into the living room. Chika, who had been working hard as usual, entered the room with a tired expression. "Yes, ma," Chika answered, her voice polite but wary. Doris looked at Chika with a stern face. "Chika, I have an important announcement to make. Ella's wedding plans have changed." Chika's heart skipped a beat. "Changed? What do you mean?" Doris took a deep breath and continued. "I have decided that you will marry Kenny instead of Ella." Chika's eyes widened in shock. "Me? But ma, I don't know anything about Kenny. I've never met him." Doris immediately slapped her, and she was quiet with tears in her eyes. Doris's expression hardened. "It doesn't matter. This is what's best for our family. Since the arrangement has been made and no turning back, someone needs to wear the dress. You are very fit for that." Chika felt a wave of sadness and fear wash over her. She had never imagined her life would come to this. The thought of marrying someone she didn't know, who was part of a family with financial problems, was overwhelming. She wished there was someone to help her or rescue her from this situation. Chika said to herself with a trembling voice, "I don't even know Kenny. How can I marry someone I've never met?" Doris's voice was cold and firm. "It's not up to you. This is what I have decided, and you will follow through. I expect you to prepare for the wedding." Chika nodded. Though her heart was heavy, she felt a pang of sadness and wished she could escape from this nightmare. The idea of marrying Kenny, who was a complete stranger to her, was terrifying. She knew she had no choice but to go along with Doris's plan. That week was the saddest and most difficult time in Chika's life. She spent her days preparing for the wedding, all the while feeling a growing sense of despair. She had no one to turn to and no way to change her situation. Her dreams of a different life seemed further away than ever. As the wedding day approached, Chika's feelings of sadness and anxiety only grew stronger. She tried to focus on the preparations, but her heart was not in it. She wondered if anyone would come to her aid, but no one seemed to notice her plight. That evening, as Chika sat alone in her room, she felt a tear slip down her cheek. She looked around at her small simple room, which had always been a refuge from the harsh realities of her life. Now, it felt like a prison. She thought about her father, who had always wanted the best for her. She wished he were still here to guide and support her. She missed him terribly and longed for his comforting presence. Chika tried to remind herself that she had to be strong, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. Chika couldn't help but feel a deep sense of injustice. She had always been kind and hardworking, but now she was being forced into a situation that was far from fair. She wished that someone would come and rescue her, but she knew that for now, she was alone in her struggle. The days seemed to drag on, and the wedding preparations continued. Chika tried to put on a brave face, even though her heart was breaking. She knew that she had to go through with it, but she couldn't shake the feeling that her life had taken a turn for the worse. In the back of her mind, Chika held on to a small flicker of hope. Maybe someday, things would change for the better. Maybe she would find a way out of this situation. For now, she had no choice but to endure and face the unknown future that awaited her. The day of the wedding arrived, and Chika felt like her world was crumbling around her. The ceremony was held in a grand hall, decorated with flowers and ribbons. Everyone around her seemed excited, but Chika felt a deep sadness in her heart. She was wearing a beautiful wedding dress, but it felt like a costume, hiding her true feelings. She glanced around the room and saw Ella looking relieved, as if a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Ella's mother, Doris, looked proud and happy, but Chika knew that her happiness came at Chika's expense. Doris had made sure that everything went smoothly, making the guests believe that this was a joyous occasion. But for Chika, it was the beginning of a new and frightening chapter in her life. As the wedding ceremony concluded, Chika was introduced to her new home. Kenny's house was large and luxurious, far beyond anything Chika had ever imagined. It was clear that Kenny was wealthy, but Chika was still troubled. She had been forced into this marriage and had no idea what her new life would be like. Kenny greeted her with a warm smile as they arrived at his home. "Welcome to our new home, Chika," he said kindly. "I hope you will find comfort here." Chika nodded, trying to hide her apprehension. "Thank you. I will do my best to adjust." Kenny showed her around the house, pointing out various rooms and explaining how things worked. Chika tried to pay attention, but her mind was clouded with worry. She was still coming to terms with the fact that she was now married to a man she had never met before, and who was a complete stranger to her. When the tour was over, Kenny led Chika to her room. "This will be your room," he said gently. "If you need anything, please let the maids know. I want you to feel comfortable here." Chika looked around the room. It was beautifully decorated, with soft colors and elegant furniture. Despite the luxury, she felt a pang of sadness. She was in a strange place, far from everything she had known. "Thank you once again. I appreciate," Chika said quietly. Kenny smiled. "If there is anything you need, just let me know. I want you to be happy." The days following the wedding were filled with adjustment and uncertainty for Chika. Kenny and Chika slept in separate rooms, and Kenny instructed the maids to attend to Chika's needs. He wanted her to feel as comfortable as possible, but the whole situation was still overwhelming for her. One evening, after dinner, Chika was sitting alone in the living room when Kenny joined her. He sat down across from her, his expression thoughtful. "Chika, I need to tell you something," Kenny said. "I know this whole situation has been difficult for you. and I want to be honest with you." Chika looked at him, her curiosity piqued. "What is it, Kenny?" Kenny took a deep breath. "I'm not the man you were led to believe I was. I'm actually quite successful and wealthy, but I choose to live under the radar for a while. I wanted to find someone who would love me for who I am, not for my money." Chika's eyes widened in shock. "You mean you are not poor?" Kenny shook his head. "No, I'm not. I have a successful business and I'm very comfortable financially. I wanted to get to know you without the influence of my wealth." Chika was stunned. Her mind raced as she tried to process this new information. "But why didn't you tell me before? Why did you let me believe you were poor? And the private investigator, he lied too." Kenny looked at her with a gentle expression. "Yes, we wanted to know the kind of person Doris was, and we reached out to Mr. Adams, who told us that Doris had already reached out to him asking about our family financial situation. So, my parents asked him to lie to her and see her reaction. I wanted to see if Ella would accept me for who I am, not for what I have. I'm sorry if this has caused you distress. I wanted to make sure that our relationship was built on genuine feelings and not on material things." Chika felt a mix of emotions, confusion and gratitude. The fear she had felt about marrying a man from a struggling family was replaced by a new understanding of Kenny's intentions. She realized that her marriage might not be the cause she had thought it was. "I appreciate your honesty, Kenny," Chika said softly. "I'm still trying to adjust to everything, but I'm glad to know the truth." Kenny smiled warmly. "I understand that this is a lot to take in. We can take things slowly and get to know each other better. I want to make sure you are happy and comfortable." Over the next few weeks, Chika and Kenny began to learn more about each other. They spent time talking and sharing their experiences, discovering common interests and values. Although they still slept in separate rooms, their conversation helped bridge the gap between them. Kenny was patient and understanding, making sure that Chika had everything she needed. The maids were attentive and kind, making Chika's transition easier. Slowly but surely, Chika began to feel more at ease in her new home. One afternoon, as they sat together in the garden, Chika turned to Kenny with a smile. "I have been thinking a lot about our situation. I'm starting to feel more comfortable, and I appreciate how kind you have been." Kenny reached out and took her hand. "I'm glad to hear that, Chika. I want us to build a strong and happy life together. We have a fresh start, and I believe we can make it work." Chika nodded, feeling hopeful for the first time since the wedding. She was still adjusting to her new life, but the understanding and kindness she received from Kenny gave her a sense of comfort. She knew that their journey together would be a gradual one, but she was willing to give it a chance. As the days turned into weeks, Chika and Kenny's relationship grew stronger. They continued to learn about each other and build a foundation of trust and respect. Chika began to see that her marriage, while not what she had expected, had the potential to bring her happiness after all. As weeks went by, Chika and Kenny continued to grow closer. Their initial awkwardness began to fade as they spent more time together, discovering each other's likes, dislikes, and dreams. Chika started to feel more at home in her new environment, and her worries began to ease. Kenny's kindness and patience were a constant comfort, and Chika found herself gradually opening to him. One evening after a quiet dinner, Chika and Kenny sat in the living room, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. The room was cozy, with soft lighting and a warm fireplace. Chika felt a sense of calm that she hadn't experienced in a long time. "Kenny, I have been meaning to talk to you," Chika began, her voice gentle. "I want to share more about my past with you. You have been so kind and understanding, and I feel like you deserve to know the whole story." Kenny looked at her with a warm smile. "I would like that, Chika. Please tell me anything you want." Chika took a deep breath and started to recount her life story. While I was 2 years old, my mother passed away and my father remarried. That's how I ended up with Doris and Ella. Life was difficult with them. Doris wasn't very kind to me, and Ella wasn't much better. I worked hard to be a good student, but things at home were always tough. Kenny listened intently, nodding as Chika spoke. I'm so sorry you had to go through all that, he said softly. It sounds like you have been very strong through everything. Chika smiled faintly. Thank you. I did my best to stay positive, even when it was hard. I never imagined I would end up marrying someone like you, especially after everything that happened. Kenny's expression grew serious. Chika, I want you to know that I have learned about your situation. I found out what Doris did and how she forced you into this marriage. I'm sorry for how you were treated. Chika looked at Kenny with surprise. You know about that? I didn't realize you had looked into it. Kenny nodded. Yes, I did some research. I wanted to understand what you had been through and make sure you were treated well. I have seen how Doris treated you, and I want to protect you from any further harm. Chika's heart swelled with gratitude. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate your concern and your effort to understand my situation. It seems a lot to me. Kenny took Chika's hand gently. I promise to support you and protect you. You deserve to be happy and cared for, and I want to make sure you feel that way in our marriage. As the days went by, Chika and Kenny continued to build their life together. They went on walks, cooked meals together, and shared stories from their past. Chika began to see the man who was caring, respectful, and genuinely interested in making her happy. One afternoon, Chika was in the garden tending to some plants. Kenny joined her, carrying a tray with 2 cups of tea. He set it down on a nearby table and smiled at her. Chika, you have been working so hard, he said. I thought you might enjoy a break. Chika looked up, her face brightening. Thank you, Kenny. I would love some tea. They sat together, sipping their tea and enjoying the peaceful garden. Chika felt a sense of contentment as she looked around at the blooming flowers. Kenny, Chika said after a moment, I'm starting to feel like I'm really falling in love with you. You have shown me so much kindness and understanding. I never expected to feel this way, but I'm grateful for it. Kenny's eyes softened with emotion. Chika, I'm falling in love with you too. Your genuine nature and kindness have touched my heart. I'm so glad we are getting to know each other better. As they continued to grow closer, their bond strengthened. They supported each other through challenges and celebrated their joys together. Kenny's true nature as a caring and loving husband became more apparent, and Chika's genuine affection for him deepened. Their life together was far from perfect, but it was filled with love, trust, and mutual respect. Chika and Kenny continued to learn and grow stronger, supporting each other through the ups and downs. Their bond became a source of strength and joy, proving that even in the most unexpected situations, love could flourish and create a happy ending. The news of Chika's husband Kenny being wealthy and successful spread quickly through the city. Doris and Ella, hearing about it, were filled with jealousy and regret. Doris was furious and couldn't believe that Chika, whom she had always treated poorly, ended up with such a great match, while her own daughter Ella missed out. Driven by envy and greed, Doris decided to hatch a plan to get what she believed rightfully belonged to Ella. One sunny afternoon, Doris made a phone call to Chika. She put on a sweet and concerned tone, hoping to manipulate Chika into inviting her and Ella over. Hello, Chika, my dear, Doris said, her voice dripping with false warmth. I have been thinking about you. Since you got married, we haven't had a chance to see each other. Ella and I would love to come and spend some time with you. We miss you. Chika was taken aback by the call. She hadn't expected her stepmother to reach out like this. It felt strange, especially considering how Doris had treated her in the past. Really? Chika replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I don't think you would be interested in visiting, but I will think about it and get back to you this evening. Doris's smile widened as she ended the call, already plotting her next move. She was determined to use this visit to create trouble between Chika and Kenny. Meanwhile, Chika was left feeling uneasy about the sudden invitation. She hadn't had much interaction with Doris and Ella since her marriage, and now they wanted to come visit. When Kenny came home later that day, he was tired but happy to see Chika. They shared a quiet dinner together. Afterward, Chika brought up the call from her stepmother. My love, Chika began hesitantly. I got a call from Doris today. She said she and Ella want to come visit us. She seemed really interested in spending time with us. Kenny's face tightened slightly. He wasn't thrilled about the idea of Doris and Ella coming over, especially given their history. However, he wanted to support Chika and make her happy. Are you sure you want them to come? Kenny asked gently. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. Chika looked conflicted. I'm not sure either, but I think it might be better to let them come and see what they want. It might make things easier for us in the long run. Kenny nodded, understanding Chika's feelings. Alright then, if that's what you want, we can have them over, but let's be cautious. That evening, Chika called Doris back. Hello ma, Kenny and I talked about your visit. You and Ella are welcome to come anytime. Just let us know when you would like to come. Doris was delighted. Oh, that's wonderful, Chika. We'll be there soon. I'm sure we'll have a lovely time together. The next few days were filled with preparations. Chika and Kenny made sure their home was welcoming and comfortable for their guests. They hoped for a peaceful visit, but Doris had different plans. When Doris and Ella arrived at Chika's home, they were greeted warmly by Chika and Kenny. The initial meeting was polite, but Doris was already plotting her scheme. She had a hidden agenda, aiming to create confusion and drive a wedge between Chika and Kenny. As the days went by, Doris and Ella began their subtle manipulations. Doris would make remarks about Kenny's background and wealth, trying to plant seeds of doubt in Chika's mind. She would speak in a tone that suggested there might be problems, hoping to stir up trouble. You know, Chika, my darling, Doris said one morning, sometimes people who seem perfect on the outside have hidden issues. It's important to be careful and make sure everything is as it seems. Chika forced a smile, trying to ignore the insinuations. Thank you for your concern, ma. I believe Kenny and I am doing well. Ella too was trying her best to be friendly, but had a more direct approach. She would often engage Chika in conversations that subtly undermined Kenny's character. You know, Ella said one day, it's important to be sure about your partner's background. Sometimes, people aren't what they appear to be. Chika felt uneasy, but tried to brush off the comment. She trusted Kenny and wanted to focus on their life together. However, the constant doubt planted by Doris and Ella began to weigh on her. Despite Doris' efforts, Kenny remained calm and respectful. He was aware of the tension and subtle manipulations, but chose not to react aggressively. Instead, he focused on being supportive and loving towards Chika. One evening, Doris made another attempt to create discord. She organized a small gathering, hoping to make Kenny appear unworthy in front of Chika. During the gathering, Doris made sure to bring up Kenny's background in a casual conversation, suggesting that there were rumors about his finances. I heard some people saying that Kenny's family had financial issues in the past. Doris mentioned, trying to sound innocent. I'm sure it's nothing, but it's always good to be aware of such things. Kenny, overhearing the conversation, chose to ignore it. He knew what Doris was trying to do, and was determined not to let it affect his relationship with Chika. Instead of showing any sign of discomfort, Kenny continued to be conscious and supportive. Days passed, and Doris's schemes continued, but they didn't seem to have the desired effect. Chika remained committed to her marriage, and Kenny's love for her only grew stronger. Despite Doris's best effort, the bond between Chika and Kenny remained unshaken. Doris's attempts to spoil Chika's reputation in front of Kenny only seemed to bring the couple closer. Kenny's unwavering support and kindness helped Chika see the truth about his character. She began to trust him even more, realizing that his love for her was genuine. Doris's jealousy and anger at the situation grew stronger each day. Unable to accept that Chika had ended up with the wealthy Kenny, she decided to take drastic measures. Her plan was to spread lies and cause trouble, hoping to drive a wedge between Chika and her new husband. Doris was determined to manipulate the situation so that her daughter Ella would still get the life she thought she deserved. One sunny afternoon, Doris invited a few friends over. She used the opportunity to softly spread false information about Chika and Kenny. As the guests chatted, Doris casually brought up Chika's marriage. "It's such a shame," Doris said, shaking her head. "Ella was supposed to marry Kenny. Everyone knows that's what was meant to happen. But then, Chika somehow ended up in that position." Her friends looked at each other, surprised by what they had. "Oh, really?" one of them asked. "I thought Chika was the one Kenny wanted." Doris smiled sweetly. "That's what they want everyone to believe. But if you dig a little deeper, you will find that Ella was the one meant for Kenny. It's such a shame how things turned out." By spreading these lies, Doris hoped to create doubt and confusion. She wanted people to question Chika's place in Kenny's life, believing that if enough people were convinced that Ella was the rightful bride, the pressure might force Chika and Kenny to separate. Meanwhile, Doris didn't stop there. She frequently made comments to Chika that seemed innocent but were meant to cause tension. "Chika," Doris said one day, "I have been thinking, Kenny and Ella were meant for each other. It's strange how things have turned out this way." Chika looked up from her work, puzzled. "What do you mean, ma?" "Oh, nothing," Doris replied with a dismissive wave. "Just thinking aloud, but sometimes things don't turn out as we expect." Despite Doris's attempts to sow discord, Chika remained focused on her life with Kenny. She trusted her husband and believed in their relationship. Chika refused to let Doris's comments affect her happiness. However, Doris didn't stop. She became more aggressive in her efforts to drive a wedge between the couple. She started to spread rumors around the neighborhood, telling anyone who would listen that Kenny was unhappy with Chika and that he was only staying in the marriage because he felt sorry for her. One day, Doris stopped by a local market where some of Chika's friends were shopping. She began talking to them about Kenny and Chika. "You know," Doris said, pretending to be concerned, "I heard that Kenny is not happy with Chika. They say he's only staying with her out of pity." Her friends were shocked. "Is that true?" one of them asked. Doris shrugged. "I can't say for sure, but I have heard things. It's a shame how things turned out. Ella would have been a much better match for him." One evening, as Chika and Kenny were having dinner, Chika brought up Doris's recent behavior. "My love," Chika said, her voice troubled, "I have heard some strange things lately. Doris has been spreading rumors about us and saying that you are unhappy with me. I don't understand why she would do that." Kenny looked at her with concern. "I have noticed that Doris has been trying to cause trouble. She's spreading lies to create confusion. But don't worry, Chika. I am happy with you, and nothing she says can change that." Chika sighed in relief. "I'm glad to hear that. It's just hard to deal with all the negativity." Kenny reached across the table and took Chika's hand. "We will get through this together. We have a strong bond, and no one can break that. Let's focus on our happiness and not let Doris's schemes affect us." Chika smiled, feeling reassured by Kenny's words. They continued their evening, determined not to let Doris's actions ruin their relationship. Doris, however, wasn't giving up. She continued to push her agenda, attempting to manipulate every situation to her advantage. She tried to meet with Kenny alone, hoping to convince him that Chika was not the right choice. But Kenny remained firm, refusing to be swayed by her deceitful tactics. One day, Doris cornered Kenny in his office. She looked around, making sure no one was listening before speaking. "Kenny," Doris began, her voice low and insistent. "I need to talk to you about Chika. I know you might be having doubts. You should know that Ella was the one meant for you." Kenny's expression was serious. "Doris, I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy with Chika. I know her better than anyone. She's kind, loving, and everything I could ask for." Doris tried to argue, but Kenny remained resolute. "I'm not interested in discussing this further. My marriage with Chika is strong, and I won't let anyone, including you, interfere with it." Doris's face fell as she realized that her schemes were failing. She returned home, frustrated and angry, but determined to find another way to separate Chika and Kenny. Despite Doris's best effort, Chika and Kenny's love for each other only grew stronger. They continued to support each other, building a life filled with trust and respect. Doris's lies and manipulation could not break their bond. One morning, Doris arrived at Chika and Kenny's home with an air of false cheerfulness. She knocked loudly on the door, and Chika, who was busy in the kitchen, answered it. "Good morning, ma," Chika said with a forced smile, trying to be polite despite the tension. "Good morning, Chika, my dear," Doris replied, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I was just passing by and thought I would drop for a visit." Chika nodded and led Doris to the living room where Kenny was reading the newspaper. Doris took a seat and began chatting in a manner that was anything but friendly. "You know, Chika," Doris started, "it's so nice to see you settled down. I hope you are enjoying your life here." Chika could sense the sarcasm in Doris's voice. "I'm doing well, ma. Thank you for asking." As Doris made herself comfortable, Chika couldn't help but feel a growing unease. She knew that Doris's visit was not a casual drop-in, but another attempt to stir trouble. "Chika," Doris began loudly, "I have been hearing such terrible things about you. I just don't understand why Kenny is with you when he could have been with Ella." Chika took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Ma, I'm tired of your lies and manipulations. I have been patient, hoping you would stop, but now I'm standing up for myself." Doris looked surprised but quickly recovered her composure. "Oh, really? And what are you going to do about it?" Chika's voice grew firmer. "I'm not going to let you ruin my life any longer. I have been trying to build a happy life with Kenny, and your actions are making it very difficult. I refuse to let you control me or my marriage. Not anymore." Kenny, who has been observing the confrontation from a distance, decided it was time to step in. He walked over and stood beside Chika, his expression serious. "Doris," Kenny said firmly, "I need you to understand something. I choose Chika to be my wife, and I'm very happy with her. Your attempts to break us apart are not only unacceptable, but also completely misguided. I know about your manipulations, and how you have tried to cause trouble between us." Doris's face turned red with anger. "You don't know what you're talking about. Ella was meant to be with you, not Chika." Kenny shook his head. "It's not about who was meant to be with me. It's about who I choose and who I want to spend my life with. I love Chika for who she is, not because of her background or your schemes." Doris's anger boiled over. "You will regret this. I will make sure of it." Chika stepped forward, her voice steady. "I have had enough of your lies. I have worked hard to build a life here, and I won't let you or anyone else take that away from me. If you continue to spread rumors and cause trouble, I'll take legal actions to protect my marriage and my reputation." Doris was taken aback by Chika's resolve. She had always seen Chika as a meek and submissive person, but now she saw someone who was strong and determined. With a huff, Doris gathered her things and stormed out of the house, leaving Chika and Kenny behind. As the door closed behind Doris, Chika felt a wave of relief wash over her. For the first time, she had stood up to her stepmother and refused to let her control her life. Kenny reached out and took Chika's hand. "You were amazing," Kenny said, his eyes filled with admiration. "I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself." Chika smiled, feeling a newfound sense of confidence. "Thank you, my love. I can't let Doris's action dictate my happiness." At Doris's house, tension grew thicker when Ella started disobeying her and misbehaving. One evening, Ella, who had been increasingly disillusioned with her mother's behavior, decided she could no longer tolerate the chaos. She packed her belongings and prepared to leave. As she walked through the house, she saw Doris sitting alone in the living room looking defeated. "Mom, I'm leaving," Ella said firmly. "I can't be part of this anymore. Your actions have caused too much pain and trouble." Doris looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and anger. "Ella, please don't go. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to end up like this." Ella shook her head. "It's too late for apologies. I need to start my own life, away from all this mess." With that, Ella walked out the door, leaving Doris behind. Ella moved to a new apartment in a different part of the city. She found a job and began to build a life for herself, free from the shadow of her mother's deceit. Back in the city, Chica and Kenny were enjoying their life together, stronger and more in love than ever. They had weathered the storms caused by Doris's manipulations and emerged as a united and happy couple. One afternoon, Chica and Kenny were sitting together, enjoying a peaceful moment. "Can you believe how far we have come?" Chica said, leaning against Kenny. Kenny smiled warmly. "It's amazing. We have been through so much, but we have made it through together. I'm so grateful for you." "Me too. It feels like everything is finally falling into place." As they talked, Chica received a message from Ella. The message was simple but heartfelt. "Chica, I want to apologize for everything my mother has done. I'm starting a new chapter in my life, and I hope you and Kenny are doing well." Chica showed the message to Kenny. "It looks like Ella is trying to make things right," Chica said. "I hope she finds happiness and peace." Kenny agreed. "I hope so too. Everyone deserves a chance to start afresh." The couple continued to build their life together, focusing on their relationship and their future. They traveled, enjoyed their hobbies, and supported each other through every challenge. Chika soon went back to school to further her education. Meanwhile, Doris, now alone and filled with regret, faced the consequences of her actions. She became ill, and her illness had subsided, but the damage she had done to her life and reputation was irreversible. She had lost the respect of her friends and the support of her daughter. As she looked back on her life, Doris realized that her greed and cruelty had cost her everything. In the quiet moment of her solitude, Doris thought about the choices she had made. She remembered the times she had tried to manipulate others and the harm she had caused. It was a painful realization, and she wished she could turn back time and make different decisions. One day, Doris decided to visit Chika and Kenny to apologize. She hoped to make amends, but Chika and Kenny were not sure how to respond. After a brief conversation, Doris expressed her sincere regret and asked for forgiveness. Chika looked at Doris with compassion. "We have moved on from the past. We have built a happy life together. I hope you find peace and can rebuild your life." Doris nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for understanding. I know I have made many mistakes. I hope someday I can find a way to make things right." As Doris left, she felt a small glimmer of hope. Although her path to redemption was uncertain, she was determined to make the most of her remaining days. She knew that change would not come easily, but she was committed to finding a better way forward. Chika and Kenny, on the other hand, were ready to embark on the next chapter of their lives together. They had overcome the challenges thrown at them by Doris and were excited about the future. Their love and support for each other had only grown stronger through their trials. In the end, the story of Chika and Kenny was one of resilience and love. They faced adversity with courage and came out on the other side stronger than ever. Doris's journey was a reminder that actions have consequences, and true happiness comes from love and honesty, not from deceit and manipulation. In a small village nestled in the lush green landscapes of southeastern Nigeria, a young girl named Adaeze was born. Her mother, Nneka, was known for her gentle spirit and nurturing nature. She passed away when Adaeze was just 6 years old, leaving a void in the girl's heart that could never truly be filled. Her father, Chukwudi, a hardworking farmer, was devastated by the loss but did his best to raise his daughter alone. For years, Adaeze and her father managed to find a semblance of happiness despite their grief. She helped him on the farm, tending to the crops and learning the ways of the land. They were poor, but they had each other, and that was enough. Even though her father was a difficult man, which became more obvious after the death of her mother, but he was still her father, and he was doing his best to take care of her, so she was grateful for that. When Adaeze turned 12 years old, her father remarried. Her stepmother, Ifeoma, was a woman of striking beauty, but with a heart as cold as ice. From the moment she entered their home, she viewed Adaeze as an obstacle, a reminder of Chukwudi's first wife, whom she envied even though she had never met the woman before. Maybe it's because of the way Chukwudi was always talking about her and how wonderful she was. If she was that wonderful, why did she allow herself die? Ifeoma would always think to herself, devising more ways to take out anything that reminds Chukwudi of her rival, and Adaeze was the closest thing she could use to assuage her jealousy and bitterness. Ifeoma's subtle manipulations and cunning words slowly began to poison Chukwudi's mind against his own daughter. She accused Adaeze of laziness, disrespect and disobedience, all the while presenting a facade of kindness and concern. As the years passed, the bond between Adaeze and her father weakened. Chukwudi, blinded by Ifeoma's deceit, began to see his daughter as a burden rather than a blessing. By the time Adaeze turned 16, the situation had become unbearable. One stormy night, after a particular heated argument fueled by Ifeoma's lies, Chukwudi made a heartbreaking decision. He drove Adaeze out of their home, casting her into the night with nothing but the clothes on her back and a few hastily packed belongings. Tears streamed down Adaeze's face as she wandered aimlessly through the village, her heart shattered by her father's rejection. She found herself at the edge of the bush, where she decided to venture into the unknown. The dense forest seemed less daunting than the thought of staying in a place where she was no longer wanted. Her journey through the bush was arduous and filled with peril. She foraged for food, drank from streams, and used her wits to avoid dangerous animals. The nights were the hardest, with the sounds of the wild and cold seeping into her bones. Her resolve, however, remained unbroken. She was determined to find a new life, away from the pain of her past. After 2 grueling weeks of eating only fruits and vegetables, Adaeze finally emerged from the forest and found herself at the outskirts of a bustling city. The noise, the people, and the sheer size of it all overwhelmed her senses. But she knew this was her chance to start over. With no money and no place to stay, she wandered the streets until she found an uncompleted building where she could seek shelter. Adaeze's resilience shone through as she sought work in the city. She eventually found a job as a sales girl in a small shop. The pay was meager, but it was enough to buy food and basic necessities. She continued to sleep in the uncompleted building, making it her makeshift home. Though her new life was filled with challenges, Adaeze remained hopeful. She worked hard, saved what little money she could, and dreamed of a better future. Her past had taught her the value of strength and perseverance, and she was determined to build a life that no one could take away from her. At first, life in the city was harsh. Adaeze faced discrimination and hardship daily. The shop owner, Madame Ebele, was stern but fair, and seeing Adeze's determination, she slowly began to warm up to the young girl as she saw Adeze's dedication to her work and how her polite approach won over the more customers for her business. Despite the challenges, Adaeze remained hopeful. She made a friend in Chika, a fellow sales girl who worked in a neighboring store. Chika, having come from a similar background, understood Adeze's struggles. The two girls shared their dreams and hopes, providing each other with much needed support. Chika often invited Adaeze to her home, a small room she shared with two other people in a crowded building. There, Adaeze experienced a sense of belonging and warmth that she had missed for so long. One evening, as they sat on the floor of Chika's room, sharing a meal of jollof rice, Chika told Adaeze about a local community center that offered free evening classes. It was a place where young people could learn skills like sewing, hairdressing, and basic literacy. Intrigued and eager to improve her prospects, Adaeze decided to visit the center. The community center became Adeze's sanctuary. She enrolled in the literacy classes and sewing courses, spending every spare moment learning and improving her skills. The center's coordinator, Mrs. Ojo, was impressed by Adeze's determination and offered her additional help. Under Mrs. Ojo's guidance, Adaeze not only learned to read and write, but also discovered a passion for tailoring. As months turned into years, Adeze's life began to change. She saved enough money to rent a small room of her own, leaving the uncompleted building behind. Her sewing skills improved, and she started taking on small tailoring jobs in addition to her work at the shop. Word of her talent spread, and soon she had a steady stream of customers. However, living alone was not easy, and the rent of her small room started to become a burden as her earnings from the shop were still minimal. One of her colleagues, Kemi, noticing her struggles, offered Adaeze a room to share in her apartment. Grateful for the offer, Adaeze accepted, hoping that it would ease her financial strain. At first, the arrangement seemed perfect. The room was small but comfortable, and Adaeze was happy to have someone to share her nights with. But it didn't take long for Kemi's true nature to emerge. She was often harsh and demanding, expecting Adaeze to do most of the household chores. Kemi's constant complaints and unreasonable demands made life increasingly difficult. She would frequently accuse Adaeze of not pulling her weight, despite Adaeze doing most of the work. Adaeze felt trapped once again, but she was determined not to let this situation break her spirit. She continued to work hard at the shop and focused on improving her sewing skills. Despite Kemi's constant harassment, Adaeze managed to find solace in her routine and her small circle of friends. One day, while returning from work, Adaeze noticed a young man setting up a small computer kiosk next to their compound. His name was Michael, and he offered computer services, repairs, and lessons. Adaeze was fascinated by the technology, but knew she couldn't afford the lessons. However, her curiosity got the better of her, and she started talking to Michael during free time. Michael, impressed by Adaeze's eagerness to learn, began teaching her the basics of coding during their conversations. Adaeze was a quick learner, and soon she was spending every spare moment at Michael's kiosk, learning how to code. Michael provided her with resources and practice assignments, encouraging her to pursue her newfound passion. As her coding skills improved, Adaeze started taking on small freelance projects through online platforms. The extra income was a relief, but she kept her new work a secret from Kemi, fearing that she would find a way to sabotage her efforts. Adaeze's determination and hard work began to pay off, and she soon landed a remote job that paid well. With her new job providing a steady income, Adaeze secretly saved enough money to move out. One early morning, while Kemi was still asleep, Adaeze quietly packed her little belongings and left the apartment. She had found a small but cozy place to live, where she could finally breathe easy and focus on her future. Adaeze's new life was slowly falling into place. She had been setting up her new apartment gradually, buying a few items here and there to make the space feel like home. By the time she was ready to move in, all she needed to bring were her personal belongings. Once she arranged her new home to her satisfaction, she decided to pay a visit to Kemi's apartment. Later that evening, Adaeze returned to Kemi's place with bags full of gifts containing personal effects and food items. She knew Kemi lacked many of these essentials, and despite their difficult relationship, Adaeze wanted to live on good terms. When she arrived, Kemi was shocked to see her. Kemi had concluded that Adaeze had run away, and she had been telling everyone who would listen that Adaeze had stolen her money and jewelry. When some of the neighbors saw Adaeze entering Kemi's apartment with bags of goodies, they were shocked. They wondered why Kemi had spread such rumors about Adaeze. Oblivious to the gossip, Adaeze warmly greeted Kemi and presented her with the gifts. She thanked Kemi profusely for the accommodation and help rendered when she was in need, explaining that she had found another apartment in a different part of the city. For the first time since they had shared the apartment, they engaged in small talk. Kemi tried to find out which part of the city Adaeze had moved to, but Adaeze was wise enough to avoid revealing her location. After spending about an hour chatting, Adaeze politely excused herself, citing the traffic as a reason for her early departure when Kemi tried to persuade her to stay longer. After leaving Kemi's apartment, Adaeze headed to Michael's learning center. She wanted to share the news of her move with him. Michael, who had helped her scout for the apartment and arrange for workers to put the place in order, was like a big brother and father figure to her. When she told him she had finally moved in, he was genuinely happy for her. Michael jokingly demanded to know the date of her housewarming party, claiming he was saving his stomach for the party jollof rice and meat. Adaeze laughed heartily and joined in the joke, telling him she was expecting a consignment from abroad to make the party as grand as possible. They continued to joke and laugh together until the center closed for the day. As Michael walked Adaeze home, they chatted about her plans for the future. At the gate of her new apartment, Michael said his goodbyes, promising to come and see the house properly during the weekend when he would have more time. For the first time in a long while, Adaeze felt a sense of peace and belonging. Her new apartment, her coding job, and her small but growing tailoring business were all signs of the new life she was building. She invested in better sewing equipment and started offering more sophisticated designs,
Her clients grew, and she became known for her unique and beautiful creations. She looked forward to what the future held, knowing that she had the strength and support to face whatever challenges came her way. Adese's fashion house continued to prosper, gaining recognition for its unique and high quality designs. Instead of abandoning her second stream of income from her tech job, which was also fetching a good sum of money, Adese decided to hire more professional tailors. This allowed her to focus on the business side of her fashion house while also dedicating time to her tech job. After saving diligently for 3 good years, Adese sought Michael's advice on finding a good realtor. She wanted to start investing in real estate, beginning with the purchase of land in a promising area. Michael was amazed by her proposition. He never ceased to wonder at how cool-headed and wise she was for her age. Many young women in her position would have started living lavishly, but Adese still resided in her modest one-room apartment. She refused to move, saying the house still served her well and she liked the calm, serene atmosphere of the estate it was located in. Michael had previously suggested that she rent a newly built two-bedroom apartment in the same estate, but Adese had declined, saying she didn't have the budget for such an expense. Michael had wondered at the time what she was doing with her money, not knowing that 1 month's paycheck from her tech job alone would cover 6 months of rent plus utilities. However, he didn't probe further, as he had learned over time that Adese only spoke when she wanted and not a moment before. Now, hearing her plans to buy land, Michael understood better where her money was going. He was amazed and proud, thinking about how he had taken a chance on her when it seemed like she had nothing. He was also glad that he was the one she trusted, although he didn't consider himself the best of humans. He was sure of one thing: he would never deliberately cause her harm or put her into disrepute. Michael agreed to help Adese find a reliable realtor and promised to assist her in any way he could. Over the next few weeks, Adese and Michael visited several promising areas and met with various realtors. They finally found a piece of land that Adese felt was perfect for her investment. It was in a developing area with a lot of potential for growth. Michael helped to negotiate the terms, and soon, Adese became the proud owner of her first piece of real estate. Adese's investment in real estate marked a significant milestone in her journey. She felt a sense of accomplishment and security, knowing she was building a solid foundation for her future. Despite her growing success, she remained humble and focused, always looking for ways to improve and expand her horizons. With the help of the professional tailors she had hired, her fashion house continued to thrive. Adese's tech job also provided her with steady income and opportunities for growth. Balancing both careers, she managed to carve out time for personal development, attending workshops and seminars to stay ahead in the competitive world of fashion and technology. One evening, as they sat in Michael's office discussing her latest real estate venture, Michael couldn't help but express his admiration. "Adese, you never cease to amaze me. Your wisdom and determination are beyond your years. Many people would have taken a different path, but you have stayed true to your values and goals." Adese smiled, grateful for Michael's support and encouragement. "I have had good people around me, Michael. People like you who believed in me and helped me when I needed it most. I just want to make the most of the opportunities I have been given and ensure a secure future." Michael nodded, understanding the depth of her gratitude and determination. He knew Adese's journey was far from over and that she would continue to achieve great things. Adaeze had decided to spend her day off with Michael. He had been complaining that she was becoming too busy to spend time with him, and she realized he was right. This day, she set out to do nothing tasking and, if possible, to avoid even thinking. They talked at length, enjoying each other's company. It was then that Adaeze decided to tell Michael the truth about her family. She had previously told him she was an orphan with no family ties, but she felt he had earned the right to know her true origins. Taking a deep breath, Adaeze began to recount her story. She spoke of her father and stepmother, the days of starvation, unprompted beatings, and sleepless nights. She described the night she slept outside on the cold, hard corridor, her stomach empty, with nothing to protect her from the cold and mosquitoes except her flimsy clothes. Sometimes, her stepmother would say she was smelling and stinking up the house, or one of her children would tell a lie about her, and her father would always side with them. She didn't understand why her father had turned against her so completely. He had always been a tough man, but never to the extent of depriving her of basic necessities. Michael listened, dumbfounded, as Ada recounted her harrowing tales. When she got to the part where she was finally thrown out of the house and it took her weeks to walk from her village to the city, she paused, unable to continue. The memories were still as painful as though they had happened yesterday. This was why she kept this part of her life hidden. She thought she could handle it now, but it was still too raw. She refused to look at Michael, not wanting to see the pity she was sure would be etched on his face. She didn't tell people her story because of the pain it brought, or most importantly, she didn't want anybody's pity or worse, mockery. She did not want her life to be tainted with the foolishness of other people's ignorance or wickedness. As she stared at her hand, lost in thought, she felt Michael move. Before he could come any closer, she stood up from her seat, wiping her tears. "Don't, please. I don't want your pity," she said, holding out her hand to stop Michael from coming any closer. Finally, she looked up at his face, but what she saw there shocked her. Instead of pity, she saw admiration and something else she refused to put into words for now. Michael's eyes were filled with respect and a deep, unspoken emotion. "Adaeze," he began softly, "I don't pity you. I admire you, your strength, your resilience, and your ability to rise above such circumstances. It's incredible. You are incredible, Adaeze." Ada blinked back her tears, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She had expected sympathy, perhaps even condescension, but not this. Michael's unwavering respect and support meant more to her than she could express. "Thank you, Mike," she said quietly. "Thank you for listening and for believing in me. It means a lot." Michael nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I'm here for you always, and I'm proud of everything you have achieved. You have come so far, and I know you will go even further." They spent the rest of the day in a comfortable silence. A new bond of trust and understanding forged between them. Ada felt a sense of relief, having shared her past with someone who truly understood and appreciated her journey. She knew that with Michael by her side, she could face whatever challenges the future held. As the sun set and the day came to an end, Ada felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her past no longer felt like a burden she had to carry alone. With Michael's support and her own determination, she was ready to embrace the future and all the possibilities it held. Meanwhile, back in the village, Chukwudi had not known peace since the day Adaeze ran away. Every night, when he closed his eyes, he was haunted by visions of his late wife. In these dreams, she appeared before him, tears streaming down her face, pleading with him to bring her daughter back. Her voice echoed in his mind, filled with sorrow and accusation. Chukwudi, why did you let this happen? Bring my daughter back, she would say, her cries piercing the stillness of the night. These dreams tormented him, filling him with a deep sense of unrest and guilt. He could no longer ignore the nagging feeling in his heart that he had failed his daughter. He had allowed his second wife, Ngozi, to mistreat Adaeze, turning a blind eye to her cruelty and neglect. He had been a tough man, yes, but he had never intended for his daughter to suffer so. At first, he had tried to brush off these dreams as mere figment of his imagination, the result of stress and old age. But as they continued night after night, he realized they were more than that. They were a reminder of his failure as a father. The dreams grew more vivid with each passing night. His late wife's voice more desperate, her tears more real. Chukwudi's days were no better. The once vibrant and respected man now walked around the village like a shadow of himself. The villagers whispered behind his back, speculating about the change in him. They knew something was eating away at his conscience, but no one dared to speak to him about it. Some remembered Adaeze, the quiet girl with a gentle spirit, and wondered where she had gone. One afternoon, as Chukwudi sat under the large mango tree in his compound, lost in thought, Ngozi approached him. She had noticed the change in him too, but dismissed it as a phase. She was more concerned with the rumors that had started to spread through the village. Rumors that Adaeze had been seen in the city thriving. Chukwudi, Ngozi said, her tone sharp. Why do you sit here all day and night as if you have no work to do? There are things to be done around the house. You are becoming useless. Chukwudi looked up at her, his eyes weary. Ngozi, he replied quietly, have you heard anything about Adaeze? Ngozi snorted, crossing her arms over her chest. Why should I care about that wretched girl? She got what she deserved for being so stubborn and ungrateful. Let her be wherever she is. Chukwudi sighed, shaking his head. Ngozi, she is still my daughter. I cannot just forget her. Ngozi's face twisted with disdain. Your daughter, you say? She never respected me as her mother. You have been too soft on her, and now, look where it's gotten you, worrying over a child who has probably forgotten all about you. Chukwudi felt a surge of anger rise within him, but quickly suppressed it. There was no point arguing with Ngozi. He knew her heart was hardened, and she would never understand the pain he felt. He stood up, brushing the dust from his clothes. I need to find her, Ngozi, he said firmly. I need to make things right. Ngozi scoffed. Do as you please, Chukwudi, but don't expect me to welcome her back here if you find her. Ignoring her, Chukwudi turned and walked away from the compound, his mind set. He didn't know how or where to start, but he knew he had to find Adaeze. He needed to apologize, to make amends for the years of neglect and abuse she had suffered under his roof. He needed to tell her that he was sorry, that he had been wrong. As he walked through the village, he made his way to the local church. Perhaps the pastor could help him, or at least offer some guidance. He needed all the help he could get. His heart was heavy with regret, but it was also filled with a determination he hadn't felt in years. He wouldn't rest until he found his daughter and made things right. He owed it to his late wife, to himself, and most importantly to Adaeze. Chukwudi approached the church with a newfound sense of purpose. He knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to face whatever challenges come his way. He was ready to fight for his daughter, to bring her back home, and to finally be the father she deserved. The sun had barely risen when Adaeze woke up, her heart racing and her breath coming in quick, shallow gaps. She sat up in her bed, the remnants of a vivid dream still clinging to her like morning dew. She had seen her mother. It was the most beautiful thing she had experienced in a long time. A vision so unexpected that it left her startled. In the dream, her mother had appeared as she remembered her from childhood, radiant and kind, with a smile that could light up even the darkest room. Adaeze had also forgotten that smile, a smile that had been her solace in the years of hardship and loss. Seeing her mother again after all these years was a shock, like a sudden gust of wind that took her breath away. The dream had been so real, so vivid, that for a moment Adaeze believed she could reach out and touch her. She had felt a warmth, a love that she hadn't felt in years wash over her. In the dream, her mother hadn't spoken much, but her presence had been enough to convey 1,000 words. They had stood together in a beautiful serene meadow, surrounded by wildflowers that swayed gently in the breeze. Her mother had reached out, her eyes full of tenderness and understanding, and placed a hand on Adaeze's cheek. "My daughter," she said softly, her voice echoing like a sweet melody. "You have grown strong, but you must forgive. Find peace in your heart. Do not let the past hold you back." Those words lingered in Adaeze's mind, even as she tried to shake off the last traces of sleep. Forgive? The word felt heavy, almost impossible. How could she forgive a father who had abandoned her and a stepmother who had made her life unbearable? How could she let go of the pain that had shaped so much of who she was? But the memory of her mother's face, so full of love and peace, made her pause. She realized how much she missed that feeling, how much she longed to feel at peace with herself and her past. Adaeze took a deep breath, letting the emotion of the dream wash over her. It felt like a message, a sign that she was not alone, that her mother was still watching over her, guiding her even from beyond the grave. She got up from bed and walked over to the small window in her apartment, opening it to let in the cool morning air. The city was just beginning to wake up, the first hint of sunlight stretching across the skyline. As she stood there, gazing out at the world, she felt a calmness settle over her. Her mother's words echoed in her mind, "Find peace in your heart." Adaeze decided she needed to talk to someone about this dream. The first person who came to mind was Michael. He had been her rock, her confidant, and she knew he would listen without judgment. She quickly got dressed and headed out, her mind still reeling from the dream, but her heart feeling lighter than it had in years. When she arrived at Michael's learning center, he was already there, setting up for the day. He looked up as she walked in, immediately sensing that something was different about her. "Ada," he greeted, concern etched in his features. "Are you alright? You look different today." Adaeze managed a small smile and nodded. "I'm okay, Michael. I had a dream last night. A dream about my mother." Michael's eyes softened, and he gestured for her to sit down. "Tell me about it." he encouraged gently. As Adeze recounted the dream, Michael listened intently, his expression a mix of empathy and curiosity. When she finished, he leaned back, thoughtful. "It sounds like your mother is trying to tell you something important," he said. "Maybe she's guiding you towards healing, towards letting go of the past so you can move forward." Adeze nodded slowly. "I have been thinking about that. It's just so hard to forgive. I don't know if I'm ready to let go of everything that happened." Michael reached across the table and took her hand in his, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, Adeze. It doesn't mean what they did was okay. It just means freeing yourself from the hold it has on you. It's a way of finding peace for yourself, not for them." Adeze took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Michael's words resonated with her, echoing the sentiment of her dream. Maybe it was time to start letting go, to begin the journey towards forgiveness, not for those who had wronged her, but for herself, to find the peace her mother wanted for her. For the first time in years, Adeze felt a glimmer of hope that she could find that peace, that she could build a future unburdened by the pains of her past. And maybe, just maybe, her mother was right there with her, guiding her every step of the way. Back in the village, Chukwudi's search for Adeze had been arduous. He had reached out to anyone who might have known her whereabouts, combing through nearby towns and even making a few trips to the city. The guilt that weighed on his heart only intensified with each dead end. Every night, his late wife's face haunted his dreams, urging him on with tearful eyes to bring their daughter back. Desperation grew in him like a thorny vine, twisting around his chest. He had asked old friends, villagers, and even strangers if they had seen a young girl matching Adeze's description, not even sure what her appearance would be like now. Some pitied him, while others shook their heads, unsure how to help the broken man. But Chukwudi pressed on, driven by the hope that he could make amends for his past mistakes. Finally, after months of searching, he received a lead from a passerby who said he had seen a young woman that resembled Adeze working in a shop in the city. Though it was the first real clue Adeze had gotten in months, he decided to follow it, praying to God that this was the sign he had been waiting for. Meanwhile, in the city, Adeze was finding her own path towards healing. After her dream, she had spent many nights thinking about her mother's words and Michael's advice. Forgiveness was a powerful thing, she realized. It wasn't just about letting go of the hurt, but about reclaiming her life, her happiness on her terms. One evening, after a long day, Adeze decided it was time to face her past. She called Michael and begged him to come over, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. When he arrived, he could see the seriousness in her eyes. "Michael," she began, "I want to go back to the village. I need to see my father. I need to know if I can forgive him and if he is truly sorry for what he allowed to happen." Michael nodded, understanding the gravity of her decision. "I think that's a brave thing to do, Adeze. And you don't have to do it alone. I will go with you." Adeze smiled, grateful for his support. "Thank you, Michael. It means a lot to me to have you by my side." The next day, they set out for the village, a mix of emotions swelling in Adeze's heart. As they drove, she gazed out the window, trying to prepare herself for what lay ahead. She hadn't told Michael everything, but she had decided to approach this reunion without revealing the extent of her success in the city. She wanted to see if her family would accept her for who she was, not for what she had achieved. When they arrived, the village seemed smaller than she remembered, the streets narrower, the houses more withered. Memories flooded back, some painful, some bittersweet. Michael squeezed her hand reassuringly as they made their way to her father's house. Chukwudi was outside, his back hunched as he walked in the small garden. When he saw them approaching, he froze, his breath catching in his throat as he recognized his daughter. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming again, but the look on Adeze's face, a mixture of apprehension and determination, told him this was real. "Ada," he whispered, his voice breaking. He dropped the hoe he was holding and stumbled towards her, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Adeze, is it really you?" Adeze nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "Yes, Papa, it's me." Tears welled up in Chukwudi's eyes as he reached out to touch her, as if afraid she might disappear. "I have been looking for you everywhere," he said, his voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, Adeze. I have been such a fool. Please forgive me." Adeze felt a lump form in her throat as she saw the sincerity in her father's eyes. She had prepared herself for this moment, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure what to say. "Papa, I don't know what to say," she began, her voice thick with emotion. "I came back because I needed to know if you were sorry, if you regretted what happened." "I do," Chukwudi said quickly, tears streaming down his face. "I regret every moment I allowed Ngozi to treat you that way. I was weak, and I let my weakness cloud my judgment. I'm so sorry, my daughter. Please forgive me." Adeze looked into his eyes, searching for any hint of insincerity, but all she saw was pain and regret. Slowly, she nodded. "I forgive you, Papa, but things can't just go back to the way they were. We need to rebuild, to start afresh." Chukwudi nodded eagerly. "Anything, Adeze, anything you need, I will do it." At that moment, Ngozi came out of the house, her eyes narrowing when she saw Adeze standing there. She scoffed, folding her arms across her chest. "What is this? The prodigal daughter returns?" she sneered. "You think you can just come back here after all these years?" Adeze turned to her stepmother, her expression calm but firm. "I'm not here to cause trouble, Ngozi. I just wanted to see if my father was sorry for what happened. I'm not asking anything from you." Ngozi's face twisted with disdain. "You think you can walk back in here and everything will be forgiven? You are not welcome here, Adeze, not after the way you left." Chukwudi turned to his wife, anger flashing in his eyes. "Ngozi, enough. Adeze is my daughter, and I want her here. I will not let you drive her away again." Ngozi huffed, clearly unimpressed. "She has no place here. I won't have it." Michael, who had been quiet observing, decided it was time to step in. "With all due respect, ma," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Adeze isn't asking to stay. She just came to see her father and make peace. And maybe in time, you might see her in a different light too." Ngozi rolled her eyes. "I don't care who she's with or what she wants. She left and that's that." Adeze looked at Ngozi, her gaze steady. "I'm not here to take anything from you, Ngozi. I just came to see my father. But it seems you still can't see past your own bitterness." Ngozi was about to retort when a neighbor passed by and recognized Adeze. "Adeze, is that you? I heard you are doing well in the city. Is that true?" Ngozi's eyes widened slightly, but she quickly masked it with a look of indifference. "Doing well? What could she possibly be doing well at? Adeze smiled faintly, deciding to maintain her pretense. I have been managing, auntie, just getting by. The neighbor, unaware of the tension, nodded approvingly. That's good, my dear. I'm glad to see you have landed on your feet. As the neighbor walked away, Ngozi muttered under her breath, still scolding. Chukwudi, however, stepped forward, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and hope. Thank you for coming back, Ada. I know it wasn't easy, and I promise I will do whatever it takes to make things right. Adeze nodded. We will see, Papa. We have a lot to walk through, but I'm willing to try. With that, she turned to Michael, who gave her a reassuring nod. They began to leave, and as they walked away, Adeze felt a strange sense of closure. Her father's apology had been sincere, and while she wasn't ready to forget the past, she was willing to see what the future might hold. Back in the house, Ngozi watched them go, her expression unreadable. She didn't know that Adeze had become a successful businesswoman, that she had built a life far beyond anything Ngozi could have imagined. Adeze had chosen not to reveal her wealth or success, wanting to see if her family could accept her without it. It was a test, one that Ngozi had seemingly failed, but Adeze was at peace with that. She had come back to make peace, and that was exactly what she intended to do, on her terms and for her own sake. After that visit, Adeze knew she needed more time to reflect on what had transpired. Michael had been a steadfast companion, encouraging her to take things slowly and allowing her to process everything. But Adeze's heart was already beginning to soften towards her father. Despite all the years of pain and neglect, she could see that he was genuinely remorseful. He had been manipulated by Ifeoma, and now he wanted to make things right. A few weeks later, she received a call from her father. His voice sounded different, lighter, relieved even. Ada, he began hesitantly. I have done what I should have done a long time ago. I have asked Ifeoma to leave. She won't trouble us any longer. Adeze felt a mix of emotions swell inside her, relief, sadness, and a strange sense of closure. Thank you, Papa, she said softly. That means a lot to me. Chukwudi sighed. I want to make things right, Ada. I want to be the father you deserve, the one I should have been all along. Moved by his words, Adeze decided it was time to take a step forward. I believe you, Papa, and I'm ready to start fresh too. But this time, we will do things right. Over the next few months, Adeze began visiting the village more frequently. She didn't come empty-handed. She brought groceries, medicines, and little gifts to make her father's life comfortable. With Michael's help, she also hired a contractor to start building a new house for him. It was a modest but beautiful home, designed to bring peace and comfort to her father in his later years. Chukwudi was overwhelmed by her generosity. He had never expected such kindness after everything that had happened. He watched with a mix of gratitude as the construction took shape. Adeze was careful to involve him in the process, asking for his input on things like the layout and colors. She wanted him to feel that this house was not just a gift, but a symbol of their new beginning. As the house neared completion, Chukwudi found himself feeling lighter than he had in years. He no longer had the nightmares of his late wife crying. For the first time since Adeze left, he felt at peace. It was as if her presence had been a call to action, pushing him to make amends and to restore his relationship with their daughter. Now that he had taken those steps, her spirit seemed to have found rest. Adeze noticed the change in him. He smiled more, spoke more softly, and took great pride in his little garden, which she helped him cultivate anytime she was in the village. She found herself feeling a sense of contentment that she hadn't experienced in years. She was finally reconnecting with the father she remembered from her early childhood, before grief and bitterness had clouded their lives. One sunny afternoon, as they sat on the porch of their newly built house, Adeze turned to her father with a smile. "Papa, I want you to know that I'm happy we are here, that we are doing this," she said. Chukwudi nodded, his eyes misting with tears. "I am too, Ada. I have been given a second chance, and I won't waste it." As the weeks turned into months, their bond grew stronger. Chukwudi remained regretful for the years he had lost, but he also knew that dwelling on the past wouldn't help them move forward. Instead, he focused on the time they had now, making sure to cherish every moment. Michael remained a constant support for Adeze, visiting the village with her often. He admired her strength and kindness, seeing how she handled each step of the reconciliation with grace. Her actions had not only healed her father, but had also taught the entire village a lesson in forgiveness and redemption. One evening, after a long day of planting new crops in the garden, Adeze and Chukwudi sat on the porch, sipping fresh palm wine and watching the sunset. The colors painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the new house. Chukwudi turned to his daughter, a gentle smile on his face. "Your mother will be so proud of you, Ada. You have become an incredible woman, despite everything." Adeze smiled back, her heart full. "I like to think she's with us, Papa," watching over us and smiling. Chukwudi nodded. "I think so too. And I think she's happy now. I haven't seen her in my dreams since we began rebuilding. It's like she's at peace, just like us." Adeze reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "We have come a long way, Papa, and I'm glad we made it here together." They sat in comfortable silence, the weight of their past lifted, replaced by a newfound peace and understanding. They had both been broken by loss and pain, but together they had found a way to heal. Adeze knew there was still a long road ahead, but she felt ready to walk it, one step at a time, with her father by her side, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly at home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Adeze laid her head on her father's shoulder, grateful for the second chance they had been given. They didn't need words to fill the silence. The quiet was enough, a silent testament to the journey they had taken, the forgiveness they had given, and the love they had reclaimed. Months went by quickly, and Adeze's bond with Michael only grew stronger. Their friendship had blossomed into something deeper, and soon Michael proposed. The news of their engagement brought joy to both families. Even Adeze's father, Chukwudi, could see that Michael was the man who truly understood and cherished his daughter. The day of their wedding arrived, filled with love and celebration. The village came alive as family, friends and neighbors gathered to witness Adeze and Michael's union. It was a beautiful ceremony, filled with traditional dances, music and heartfelt vows. As they exchanged rings under the bright Nigerian sun, Adeze felt a peace she hadn't known in years. Her journey had been difficult, but she had found her happiness in Michael. After the wedding, they settled into a cozy home Michael had built near the city. Life as a married couple brought its challenges, but Adeze and Michael faced them together. Adeze continued to run her successful fashion business while also managing her tech job, while Michael expanded his computer service business. Their love and partnership flourished as they worked side by side, supporting each other's dreams. In their home, laughter echoed in the halls, and joy filled every corner. Adeze often thought of how far she had come, from the girl who had been cast out to the woman who had found love, peace, and a future filled with hope. Together, she and Michael built a life rooted in love, respect, and the promise of endless possibilities. This story teaches us about forgiveness, strength, and love. Adaeze had a difficult life after her mother died. Her father was influenced by his second wife, who treated Adaeze badly, and he sent her away. Even though Adaeze was hurt, she worked hard to build a new life in the city. She found a friend in Michael who supported her through tough times. One day, Adaeze decided to forgive her father and visit him. Her father was very sorry for what he did, and they started to rebuild their relationship. This shows us that even when people hurt us, we can choose to forgive them and find peace. Later, Adaeze and Michael got married and started a happy life together. The story reminds us that no matter how hard life gets, with hard work, kindness, and forgiveness, we can find happiness. It also teaches us that love and friendship are important and they help us grow and heal. In the end, forgiveness helped Adaeze and her father be happy again, and Adaeze found love and success in her life. Thank you for watching this amazing story about Adaeze on African Stories. If you liked it and felt inspired with her journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories by V, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.